So let's talk about 8 things. One of the things I do as part of the creative consultancy is we run creativity workshops, either to come up with ideas or to make people more creative. And you may be surprised to hear me talking about the negative things, how to ruin your event. But what we found in running these workshops was that people wanted ideas that were relevant and usable and all those sort of things. But there was a special category of ideas they wanted, which were the quick wins, the things that can make their businesses more effective right away. And so one of the things I found was that it was much more effective to focus on what you should stop doing rather than what you should do. So more effective to focus on stopping doing the wrong thing than to start doing the right thing. So I apologize if this sounds terribly negative, but that's the way it came. The first of the 8 things that I think people muck up events with is that they love their client. And can I just do a little straw poll? It should be told by the colour of your badge, but of course I can't see that from here. So if a car company wanted to do an event, then they would employ an agency to do that, and the agency in turn would book a venue and hire the freelance staff and hire the AV equipment and all that stuff. So from a quick show of hands, how many of you would put yourselves in the client and how many in the agency box? So how many clients have we got in the room? About 10%. And how many agencies? About double that. And presumably everybody else is just a freeloader, right? Okay. But when times are tough, as they are now, it's very easy to just say yes to everything the client wants. And God knows, sometimes they're right and sometimes they're wrong, but it's not as a given that the client knows what they should do, any more than a doctor's patient might know what the treatment would be. Sometimes have a good guess, but it goes through a rigorous process. And it's one of the tests of a good agency that they're prepared to sack their clients if there's no match between what they do and what they can't do. But no agency ever does that, in my experience. They struggle along. But if you treat your client with too much respect, or too much love, then things will go bad, or can go bad. The second one, then, unsurprisingly, comes on from that, is that the client treats their event organizer with too much respect. And I produced an event for an insurance company once where they didn't come to any of the review meetings at all. The first time they saw the script was when they walked on stage and read it off the autocue. And God, I was crapping myself, frankly. It was they showed huge amounts of trust in us, which was very nice. But I think they should be involved a bit more. There's a kind of adversarial thing that goes on between clients and agencies, which is that the agencies never say no. Anyone in the room who's an agency, please feel free to prove me wrong. But the client will come and say, hello, do you do tumblers and bareback horse riders and banana daiquiris and that sort of stuff? And the agency, of course, says yes. They say yes to everything, whether they can do it or not, and then they run outside and find somebody who can do it. And on the other hand, the agency will often come up with stuff because it's worked for a previous client, because they happen to have the stuff in the warehouse, for whatever reason. And that's also, it may be a good idea, but you need to rigorously test it. And I'll talk about that later. The third way to muck up your event, and you may find it strange coming from somebody who runs a creative agency, is to love your ideas too much. I'll tell you a story of 2 car launches. One was for a European manufacturer, and I don't know if the set designer had seen Peter Pan and fallen in love with it or something, but it involved the car flying around the stage. Are you there? And he, the marketing director, in fact, when he first saw the production, which was far too far advanced for him to change anything, he said that cars don't fly, which of course they don't. Now, the second one was for a Japanese manufacturer, and their pitch was this car was so well engineered that it looked as beautiful from underneath as it did from on top. It's quite ugly from on top, so it's not tricky. But so therefore, they had a legitimate reason for lifting the car up on stage so the audience could see the underside. And indeed, after the first car launched, the headline in the motoring press was "Cars don't fly." So two ideas, both pretty similar, really. But in one case, they've got carried away with the idea and they forgot to have any relevance to what they were trying to communicate. In the other example, it had great relevance to what they were communicating, and actually that was the only way you could show the thing that they were barking on about. So that's the next thing. The fourth, don't go away, is to love your audience too much. Now, obviously, I love you all with all my heart, but I could have had masseurs and free coffee and all sorts of stuff in this room. You sometimes go over the top, indulging your audience to the point where you're forgetting why they're there and what they're doing. And I know I've worked with several clients who treated their audience with far too much respect and didn't allow them to sort of self-determine the thing. One client actually did an event in Venice and organised their own riverboat service to take delegates around because they thought that the Italian one might be a bit dodgy. Anyone who's been to Venice knows it's very easy to get around. There's vaporettos everywhere, and so why they needed to do this, I don't know. But they spent a six-figure sum on getting around a problem that didn't exist, all because they were treating their audience with too much respect. Venue. Lots of people fall in love with a venue and then take a completely inappropriate event there. I was, funny enough, all these stories of mucking up events come from the car industry, but I was on another car industry job where they picked an island in the South Pacific for the car launch. Now, quite apart from being logistically horrible to do it, we had to go and check it out for a couple of weeks just to make sure it was really horrible. And it was only by day 10 or something I discovered that the only reason they were even considering this place was because the island had the same name as their marketing director. And they thought it would be fun for him to take T-shirts home to his kids that said Smith Island or whatever his name was. So you can fall in love with a venue far too much, and then you carry on even though it might not be the most appropriate place to do the thing you want to do. And this comes back to agencies. We've done a great show in the Grand at Monte Carlo. We must go back there, and you don't work out whether that's really where you should be.